The Helios Concorde station floated in deep space like a shining giant, its metal arms stretched across the darkness like the petals of a steel flower. Bright lights glowed from each section, and thousands of windows sparkled like stars. Every corner of the station was alive with alien languages, strange machines, and the sound of footsteps from species that had walked the galaxy for thousands of years. Among them walked Ambassador Rylan Cross, a 34-year-old human diplomat. His black hair carried a faint touch of gray near the temples, just enough to make him look experienced, but still young. He wore a simple navy blue uniform with the silver emblem of Earth. Compared to the rich robes and glowing armors of many alien delegates, he looked almost ordinary. But Rylan Cross didn't feel small. He had stood in war zones. He had solved impossible engineering problems. He had survived disasters no one else walked away from. Standing here among alien empires somehow felt easier than those. He watched creatures of every shape walk through the main hall. Some had wings made of energy. Some walked on 6 legs. Others floated like jellyfish made of light. It had only been 15 years since humanity learned they were not alone in the universe. Yet here Rylan was, representing Earth at the Galactic Summit. He still felt a quiet pride every time he thought about it. As he checked the meeting schedule on his datapad, a sudden shift ran through the crowd. Aliens stepped aside. Conversations fell silent. A tall group entered the hall, dressed in elegant silver and purple garments that shimmered like liquid metal. Rylan recognized them instantly. The Valorian Empire. Arrogant, brilliant, powerful, and not exactly friendly toward newborn species like humans. At the center of the group walked Princess Seraphis Valoria, the 19-year-old heir to the Empire. Her skin held a soft blue glow. Her long white hair flowed behind her like silk. Her eyes, deep violet, were sharp and assessing, always searching, always judging. Rylan had read her file. Prodigy, royal scientist, genius, and according to every report, extremely proud. The princess walked with smooth confidence, as if she owned the station. Every alien she passed lowered their head in respect. Her advisor, Minister Calrex, leaned close and whispered something. Seraphis nodded without emotion. Her eyes swept across the hall and landed briefly on Rylan. She didn't smile. She didn't nod. She simply looked through him, as if he was a piece of uninteresting furniture. Then she turned away. Rylan exhaled slowly. Well, that's a good start, he thought dryly. A deep voice echoed through the hall. Attention, delegates. Proceed to the Grand Chamber for the opening ceremony. It was Elder Merix, an ancient species elder whose body looked like a mix of wood and soft glowing roots. Rylan joined the moving crowd and entered a circular stadium-like chamber. Hundreds of seats rose in rings around a central platform. The human delegation had only 3 seats. Humanity was still new, still proving itself. Rylan sat between 2 junior diplomats, both visibly nervous. When Elder Merix floated to the center platform, the lights dimmed. Welcome, travelers of the stars. We gather for peace, progress, and mutual understanding. As he spoke, the air vibrated with calm energy. This year, we again welcome our newest members, the humans of Earth. Some aliens gave polite hums of respect. The Valorians did not. Then Elder Merix continued, as tradition requires, each new member shall present a short declaration of their hopes for cooperation. Ambassador Rylan Cross, please step forward. Rylan rose, walked confidently to the center, and began. Honorable delegates, Earth seeks peace, learning, and friendship. We may be new to the stars, but we carry determination, creativity, and the willingness to work beside all. He finished to mild applause. But then, something unexpected happened. Princess Seraphis stood. Elder Merix blinked. Princess Seraphis, do you wish to ask something? Her voice was smooth but cold. Yes, a question for the human representative. The entire chamber turned toward her. She looked directly at Rylan. Your species achieved faster-than-light travel only 15 years ago, correct? Rylan nodded. That is correct. And you still use chemical combustion for atmospheric flight? And your medical science cannot prevent cellular decay. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Rylan kept his calm. We are still improving, yes? Seraphis tilted her head. Curious. Your technological level is barely above species kept in observation reserves. Yet, the council gave you a seat, a place equal to ancient civilizations. Every alien turned to Rylan. His junior diplomats looked horrified. Seraphis continued, why should a species still crawling out of its infancy be given influence in galactic matters? Primitive curiosity is not qualification. Minister Calrex smirked. A few Valorians chuckled. Rylan felt hundreds of eyes burning into him. This was a direct insult, public test, a humiliation designed to break him. But instead of anger, instead of fear, Rylan smiled. A small, calm, almost gentle smile. Princess Seraphis, he said softly. You are correct. We are technologically young. But that is why we work harder than anyone. We came here to learn, not to pretend superiority. The princess's expression stiffened. She had expected him to break, not to stay calm. Rylan bowed slightly. We hope advanced civilizations like yours will guide us, so one day we may stand as equals. Not because we think we deserve it, but because we earned it. Silence. Deep, heavy silence. Several aliens exchanged surprised looks. Even Elder Merrix nodded with appreciation. The Valorians remained stone-faced. When the ceremony ended, Rylan sat back down. His juniors whispered, Sir, that could have gone badly. Rylan smiled. It went exactly how it needed to. But the day was not over. As the crowd left the chamber, Elder Merrix approached Rylan. Ambassador Cross, you handled the princess with grace. However, the simulation committee has made a decision. Rylan straightened. You and Princess Seraphis will be partnered in tomorrow's crisis simulation. Rylan stared at him. With respect, Elder. That seems like a recipe for disaster. Merrix's glowing eyes flickered with amusement. Perhaps. Or perhaps it is a chance for both of you to learn. Rylan looked across the hall. Princess Seraphis was receiving the same news. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes glared in Rylan's direction. Minister Calrex whispered something to her, and she laughed softly. Rylan exhaled. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. Very, very interesting. The next morning on Helios Concord Station felt different. The halls looked the same, silver floors, glowing blue walls, floating light panels. But the atmosphere carried a new tension. News of the princess insulting a human had already traveled through every diplomatic wing. Delegates whispered. Guards smirked. Scientists pretended not to listen. But Ambassador Rylan Cross walked calmly toward the simulation wing as if nothing had happened. He held a small tablet in one hand, scrolling through asteroid compositions and gravitational field patterns. His long night of studying had paid off. He was ready. Rylan was not angry about Princess Seraphis's words. He had worked with many proud species before, but there was something different about her. Something sharper, colder, more entitled. She didn't dislike humanity. She believed humanity was beneath her. And this training exercise was going to show everyone exactly how dangerous such arrogance could be. The princess arrives. At the same time, Princess Seraphis Vealoria walked through the opposite corridor. She moved like she owned the station. 2 Vealorian guards followed behind her, wearing white armor with glowing gold lines. Her advisor, Minister Calrex, walked beside her, whispering updates. Your Highness, today's simulation requires cooperation, Calrex said carefully. Seraphis scoffed. Cooperation with a human? The council wants entertainment, not results. Calrex lowered his voice. The elders will be watching. We must show diplomacy. Seraphis lifted her chin. Diplomacy is simple. I lead. The human follows. When she entered the simulation chamber, several species bowed. A few others looked away, pretending not to have heard yesterday's insult. But everyone waited for the humans to arrive. Then Rylan walked in. A few aliens stared. Some whispered again. But Rylan simply nodded politely to Seraphis. She ignored him, The simulation begins. The Elder Coordinator, an ancient crystalline being shaped like a floating diamond, hovered in front of them. Today, the Elder announced, you will face a planetary impact simulation. Your task is to design a plan to stop an asteroid from destroying the colony world Ares 4. A hologram of a massive asteroid filled the room. It rotated slowly in the air, glowing shades of icy blues and deep browns. Readings floated next to it. Diameter, 43 kilometers. Composition, methane ice, ammonia ice, iron magnesium silicate. Speed, high-velocity trajectory. The Elder continued, Delegate Cross and Princess Seraphis will share responsibility. Their combined solution will be judged. Rylan nodded professionally. Seraphis stared straight through the hologram, refusing to look at him. The Elder activated the countdown. You have 8 hours. Seraphis takes control. As the timer began, Seraphis immediately formed a floating interface of Valorian symbols. Golden circles, lines, and complex mathematical codes spun around her. Minister Calrex, she said proudly, begin graviton mapping. We will create a multi-layer gravitational disruption pattern. Calrex bowed. Yes, Princess. She then looked at Rylan, her expression cold and superior. You may observe, she said. Do not attempt to interfere. Human science is far too young to understand Valorian models. Rylan gave a small, peaceful smile. I'm here to help, not interfere. Seraphis misread the smile as weakness. Good. Then stay quiet. Rylan looked back at the hologram of the asteroid. Something bothered him. The icy patches, the core layers, the internal pockets. But Seraphis was already generating an advanced model. She created a 3D grid showing 16 graviton stabilizers positioned around the asteroid. If activated, the stabilizers would push the asteroid off course using gravitational repulsion. Aliens nearby murmured in admiration. Brilliant! Only Valorians could do this. What elegance! Rylan continued observing silently. Human analysis. Rylan tapped his small tablet, zooming into the asteroid's composition scans. He noticed temperature fluctuations inside the icy pockets. He frowned. Frozen methane and ammonia, under high pressure, combined with graviton heat stress. His mind connected the pieces. Slowly, carefully, rationally. But he didn't interrupt Seraphis. She wouldn't listen. Not yet. Instead, he asked a simple question. How much heat will the graviton fields generate during stabilization? Seraphis didn't look up. Minimal and irrelevant. He tried again politely. Could we check the internal pressure of the methane chambers? Seraphis finally looked at him, annoyed. Human, your questions show your ignorance. Valorian science has already perfected this system. Let me work. She turned back to her glowing golden symbols, dismissing him like a child. Calrex gave Rylan an apologetic look, but said nothing. Rylan sighed softly and continued his own calculations. If he was right, the princess's plan would not deflect the asteroid. It would shatter it violently, causing devastating debris. But now was not the time to argue. The room divides. As hours passed, more alien representatives visited the chamber to watch. Most stood around Seraphis's side, admiring her genius. A few curious ones approached Rylan. What is the human doing? A small insectoid delegate clicked. Rylan answered calmly, checking thermal stress patterns. Another alien, a reptilian strategist, tilted his head. Do humans have a unique method? We like simple solutions, Rylan said. Some laughed. They assumed he was joking. Tension builds. With only 2 hours left, Seraphis completed her full gravity field design. It looked beautiful, perfectly aligned, mathematically elegant. She stood proudly in the center of the room. Behold, she announced, the Valorian solution. No primitive species can match this. Aliens clapped softly. Rylan looked at her model one last time. The heat signatures were still wrong. The methane pockets were too unstable. But Seraphis was waiting for him to compliment her. Instead, Rylan took a step forward. Not aggressive, not proud, just steady and thoughtful. "Princess Seraphis," he said gently, "may I present an alternate perspective?" Her face hardened. "You may not." "But—" I said no. Her voice echoed across the room. Some aliens looked uncomfortable. Others smirked. Rylan nodded politely and stepped back. He didn't push her, didn't argue, didn't raise his voice. He simply returned to his tablet, finishing his own plan quietly. The final hour. As the last hour began, tension filled the chamber like static. The princess believed she had already won. She believed she had proven her species' superiority. But Rylan's calm silence made a few observers nervous. Humans were unpredictable, creative, dangerous. Calrex approached Seraphis softly. "Perhaps we should review the humans' notes. Only for safety?" Seraphis snapped. "Valorians do not need human safety." Calrex stepped back, worried. Across the room, Rylan finalized his design, a simple, realistic, effective plan. He didn't want to embarrass her. He only wanted to prevent a disaster. The final hour ended, and the great simulation hall doors opened with a deep metallic echo. Delegates from 47 different star systems entered the room one by one. Their robes, scales, wings, and glowing bodies reflected the bright dome lights above. Everyone knew the rumor. The human and the Valorian princess had clashed. Now the council wanted to see their results. At the front of the hall stood two elevated platforms, one for Princess Seraphis Valoria and one for Ambassador Rylan Cross. Above them hovered an enormous hologram of asteroid KX-13, rotating slowly like a miniature moon. Rylan adjusted his sleeves calmly. Seraphis stood tall, chin lifted, her golden eyes glowing with confidence. She believed today was her victory, proof that Valorians were galaxies ahead of humans. The Elder Coordinator floated into the center. "Present your solution," the crystalline being announced. Seraphis stepped forward immediately. The princess shows her masterpiece. With a graceful wave of her hand, Seraphis activated her model. A swarm of golden symbols and complex shapes spun around the asteroid hologram. 16 glowing graviton stabilizers positioned themselves around the asteroid like shining stars. Delegates gasped softly. "It's beautiful. Valorian precision. No species matches their mathematical control." Seraphis nodded, as if their admiration was her birthright. "This," she declared proudly, "is the Valorian gravimetric realignment system. 16 graviton stabilizers will generate controlled repulsion waves, enough to push the asteroid 4 degrees off its collision course. Golden rings formed around the asteroid, showing the trajectory shift. It looked smooth, perfect, elegant." Seraphis continued, her voice ringing with superiority. "This design requires no unnecessary explosions, no primitive human tools, and no unpredictable chaos. Only pure science, pure control, pure logic." A few Valorian guards clapped softly. Seraphis raised an eyebrow at Rylan. "Ambassador Cross assisted minimally," she said sharply. He observed, but he did not understand the advanced calculations. Murmurs filled the hall. Some sympathetic species looked at Rylan with pity. Others smirked. Rylan simply kept his calm smile. She believes she won. The Elder reviewed the graviton model. "Elegant," the Elder said, "and stable. A remarkable design." Seraphis's confidence grew even stronger. She turned to the audience. "No further analysis is required. The human delegation may present a basic alternative if they wish, but it will not meet Valorian standards." Delegates chuckled lightly. Even Calrex looked unsure but didn't dare speak. Seraphis stepped back with an expression of absolute victory. She thought it was over, but the Elder turned to Rylan. "Ambassador Cross, do you wish to present?" Rylan nodded politely. "Yes, Elder. With your permission." The human steps forward. Rylan walked to his platform. No glowing symbols, no golden rings, no fancy effects. Just a simple dark blue hologram created by his small tablet. His model appeared next to Seraphis's grand design. It looked almost embarrassingly plain. A few aliens laughed quietly, but Rylan ignored them. He spoke in a calm, even tone. First, Princess Seraphis's design is impressive. Her precision work is admirable. Seraphis blinked. She did not expect praise. But, Rylan continued gently, there is one factor her plan does not consider. The hall went silent instantly. Calrex swallowed hard. Seraphis frowned. Rylan zoomed into the asteroid hologram, showing deep blue patches under the surface. These, he said, are methane and ammonia ice pockets. Very large. Very dense. He tapped his screen. A heat pattern simulation appeared. When graviton stabilizers activate, they generate heat. Very small amounts, yes, but over time, in these pockets, that heat becomes dangerous. He paused. Seraphis crossed her arms. Human, you exaggerate. The heat is negligible. Rylan nodded calmly. Individually? Yes. But 16 stabilizers, operating simultaneously, around volatile frozen gas chambers. He zoomed deeper. The gas pockets began glowing red. Will cause internal expansion. The moment the room goes silent. Rylan tapped the control. The hologram asteroid exploded. Not small. Not controlled. A massive, violent burst tore it apart into thousands of high-speed fragments shooting in all directions. Several fragments hit the projection of Ares, 4, punching through its atmosphere with burning trails. Delegates gasped. Some stood. Some covered their mouths. Some shouted in their languages. Calrex looked horrified. Seraphis's eyes widened, her confidence draining like sand in water. Rylan spoke softly, still calm. The graviton fields do not deflect the asteroid. They cook it from the inside. The gas expands under pressure. And the asteroid becomes a bomb. He turned the projection again. Instead of saving Ares, 4, the debris would hit the planet like a shotgun blast. Billions would die. The room was dead silent. No one laughed now. No one whispered. All eyes turned to Princess Seraphis. Her face was pale, shocked, broken by a truth she could not deny. Delegates react. A reptilian strategist raised his claws. Is this accurate? The elder scanned the model. The human's calculations are precise, the elder confirmed. The Valorian plan contains a fatal flaw. Seraphis staggered as if someone had struck her. The dignified, proud princess, certain of her superiority, looked suddenly small and inexperienced. Calrex bowed his head in shame. A dozen delegates turned to Rylan instead. How did he see this? Humans understand volatile reactions? Humans are more clever than expected. Rylan did not gloat, did not mock her, did not boast. He simply stepped back and folded his hands calmly. Thank you for listening, he said softly. Seraphis cannot speak. The elder turned to Seraphis. Princess, do you wish to rebut? Seraphis opened her mouth. No words came out. She looked at her beautiful golden model, now a symbol of failure. She looked at Rylan's simple blue hologram, the one that saved billions. Her pride, her arrogance, her confidence. Everything cracked. Finally she whispered, barely audible. I did not see it. Rylan gave her a respectful nod. It's okay. Asteroids are tricky. Seraphis stared at him with a mixture of humiliation, confusion, and something new, something unfamiliar to her. The hall remained silent long after Rylan's simulation ended. The explosion hologram, glowing red and violent, still floated in the air. Delegates stared at it as if unable to look away. It was undeniable. It was terrifying. And it meant one thing. The princess's perfect plan would have destroyed an entire world. Seraphis Valoria stood frozen. Her golden eyes, once proud and sharp, now looked unfocused, caught somewhere between shock and disbelief. A princess raised to believe she was untouchable had been proven dangerously wrong by a human. The elder coordinator floated forward. Its crystalline body shimmered with multiple colors, an ancient sign of confusion. Ambassador Rylan Cross, the elder said, your analysis is sound. We request your full explanation for the council record. Every delegate leaned in. Rylan took a slow, calm breath and stepped toward the center of the hall. The calm before the shock. Ryland's voice remained steady, friendly, almost gentle. "Thank you, Elder. I will keep this simple so all species can understand." A few delegates from technical worlds nodded appreciatively. Ryland always spoke with clarity, never superiority. He tapped his tablet again. The hologram shifted to an internal cross-section of the asteroid. "First," Ryland said, "methane and ammonia ice are extremely sensitive to heat. Even small energy waves can destabilize them." He pointed to the glowing pockets. "Inside this asteroid, the pockets are deep and thick. Over millions of years, pressure has built inside them. They are ready to burst with the slightest change in temperature." A bird-like alien chirped nervously. A stone-skinned warrior grunted. Ryland continued, "When Princess Seraphis' gravity field stabilizers activate, they create an oscillating energy frequency. The frequency itself is not dangerous." He switched the view. "But inside the pockets, it causes molecular vibration. Vibration creates heat. Heat creates expansion. Expansion creates structural failure." The hologram showed cracks forming from the inside out. Once the cracks reached this depth, he tapped again. The asteroid blew apart. Delegates flinched. Ryland nodded once. "That is why her plan fails," he said. "Not because it is weak, but because it is too powerful for this specific composition." He paused to let the explanation settle. Then he added softly, "Science is not just intelligence. It is understanding the material you work with." The room murmured again, this time with deep respect. "The part that breaks them." Ryland tapped his tablet once more. A new, simple model appeared, one shaped with familiar human logic. Straightforward, realistic, clean. "I propose a different plan," Ryland said. "A human plan." The hall leaned forward. No dazzling gold symbols. No complex patterns. Just 7 small markers placed across the asteroid. Ryland explained, "We deploy 17 low-yield nuclear devices. Not to destroy the asteroid, but to break it into controlled, predictable fragments." This time, the hologram showed gentle explosions at key weak points. The asteroid broke neatly into many smaller pieces. Then, Ryland continued, "the smaller fragments burn up in the planet's upper atmosphere or scatter safely into space." The hologram displayed an elegant, harmless trail of dust across Ares 4's sky. Delegates stared in awe. A telepathic alien whispered, "How did humans design such a stable fragmentation pattern?" Ryland smiled softly. "We fail a lot," he said. "We learn from our failures. That makes us good problem solvers." But he wasn't finished. Ryland tapped his tablet one last time. The simple fragmentation model transformed, merging with Seraphis's graviton method. He modified her stabilizers into debris nets, using their gravitational fields not to push the asteroid, but to gather and contain dangerous fragments after the breakup. The hybrid design floated above them, a perfect blend of human practicality and Veilorian precision. It was beautiful. It was powerful. It was smarter than either plan alone. And the hall knew it. Ryland said, "Humans don't need to win alone. We just need to survive. Cooperation gets us further than pride." It wasn't meant to be an insult, but for the council, for the princess, for the watching dignitaries, it was devastating. Seraphis's breath caught in her throat. Calrex looked away. Some delegates stared at Ryland with a new expression. One of few alien species had never felt toward humans. Fear. Because Ryland had not just corrected the princess. He had outthought her, then improved her plan, then combined both solutions into something nearly perfect. And he did it politely, with patience, without arrogance. That terrified them more than anything. The Elder's verdict. The Elder Coordinator's body flashed a brilliant blue. "Astonishing," it said. "The hybrid solution yields a 98.4% success rate, the highest of all presented options." A murmur swept through the hall. The human's analysis reveals insight beyond his species' expected capability. The Veilorian delegates stiffened. The Elder turned to Seraphis. "Princess, do you acknowledge the human's correction?" Seraphis opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her pride and education had never prepared her for such a moment. All her life she had been taught, Valorians are perfect. Valorians do not fail. Valorians do not learn from lesser species. But today she had failed. And a human, someone she thought irrelevant, had taught her something life-saving. Finally, her voice cracked out softly. Yes, Elder, the human is correct. The hall gasped again. A Valorian admitting fault? A princess admitting error? Unheard of. Seraphis looked down at the floor, her golden confidence shattered. And Rylan? He simply bowed his head in respect. Thank you, princess, he said gently. That single gesture, humble, sincere, hit her harder than any humiliation. The simulation hall slowly emptied, but the tension inside it remained like heavy fog. Delegates whispered excitedly. Some looked shocked, others curious, and a few looked almost uneasy. Because today the galaxy had witnessed something rare. A human outsmarted the heir of one of the most advanced empires. Ambassador Rylan Cross stood calmly beside his simple hologram. He wasn't proud. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even thinking about the attention around him. He was thinking about how to fix the asteroid problem. Princess Seraphis stood on the other side of the hall, frozen. Her usually perfect posture had collapsed. Her shoulders were lower, her eyes dim, her confidence cracked. She had been trained from childhood to believe Valorians never lose. Today she learned that science doesn't bend for pride. And humans, the primitive species, could see what she couldn't. Calrex approached her carefully. Princess, are you well? Seraphis didn't answer. Rylan begins teaching. The elder coordinator floated forward again. Ambassador Cross, the elder said, please explain the human solution in greater detail. For the record. Rylan nodded respectfully. He stepped into the center of the hall again and brought up the simple hologram with the 17 tiny markers. This method, he said, is called a fragmentation pattern. Delegates leaned forward. Rylan pointed to each marked location. We place small nuclear devices in these 17 weak points. The explosions are controlled so they break the asteroid into predictable paths. He spoke slowly, clearly, like a teacher helping a classroom. We do not destroy the asteroid. We reshape it. That gives us control. A tall beetle-like alien raised a limb. But why so many devices? Why not one large explosion? Rylan smiled gently. Humans have tried big explosions before. We learned from our mistakes. A few delegates chuckled softly. Rylan continued. When you break something in one big hit, it becomes chaotic. Unpredictable. Dangerous. He tapped the hologram. The asteroid broke into thousands of fast, deadly pieces. But with small hits, many small hits, tap, the asteroid broke cleanly into safe trajectories again. You guide the outcome. You shape the danger instead of fighting it. The hall whispered in amazement. Even the princess listens. Slowly, quietly, Princess Seraphis moved closer. Her golden eyes followed every line of Rylan's model. She had never seen such simple science used so effectively. A species that had barely entered the galactic stage could do this? Rylan noticed her approaching, but he didn't speak to her yet. He was careful, respectful, gentle. He didn't want to embarrass her more. He continued presenting. The council's questions. A crystalline delegate floated closer. Human, it asked, how did your people develop this method? Rylan answered calmly. We had to. Earth has a lot of dangerous history. Natural disasters, mistakes, wars, accidents. Our species survived by learning patterns, step by step, mistake by mistake. His voice was steady, but carried weight. Humans are not the smartest. We're not the strongest, but we learn faster than most. And once we understand a problem, we figure out a way through. Some species nodded deeply. Others watched with new caution. Rylan's explanation was not just technical. It revealed something deeper. Humans don't fear chaos, they master it. The princess speaks. Finally, after a long silence, Princess Seraphis stepped forward. Ambassador Cross, she said, her voice quiet but steady. Rylan looked up at her politely. Yes, princess. Her throat tightened. Valorians were not used to humility. I did not understand the internal gas behavior, she forced herself to admit. Your observations were sharper than mine. Rylan shook his head softly. It's not about being smarter. She blinked. No one had ever told her that. It's about looking at the problem differently, Rylan added. Seraphis lowered her gaze. Then, teach me. The room erupted in whispers. A Valorian princess, heir to one of the galaxy's greatest empires, asking a human for instruction? Unthinkable, unbelievable, unprecedented. Calrex almost dropped his datapad, but Rylan simply smiled warmly. Of course. He expanded the hologram and gestured her closer. The human lesson. Rylan showed her the internal structure of the asteroid again. You focused on the stabilizers, he explained. Your math is perfect, but perfect math can fail if the material doesn't behave as expected. He pointed to the ice pockets. These react to heat faster than rock. They expand in different directions. They fracture unpredictably. Seraphis absorbed every word. She studied the hologram from angles she had never considered. This is so simple, she whispered, but also so elegant. Rylan chuckled lightly. Humans like simple solutions. Simple is safe. Seraphis looked at him with genuine curiosity. And the nuclear devices? They do not create chaos? Rylan shook his head. No, they create order, but only when placed with precision. He circled the 17 points. This is the part that took us centuries to learn. Destruction without guidance is chaos. Destruction with intention is control. Seraphis stared at him in awe. A subtle shift. The hall grew quieter as the two of them continued going over the plan. The princess asked questions, real questions, not arrogant ones. Rylan answered patiently, like a mentor guiding a talented but inexperienced student. Delegates watched with disbelief. Moments earlier, Princess Seraphis had humiliated herself in front of the galaxy. Now she was learning from the very human she had mocked. The shift was not small. It was enormous. A moment of real respect. After nearly an hour of discussion, Seraphis finally stepped back. She bowed her head slightly, just slightly, but for her, it was a massive gesture. Ambassador Rylan, she said, your people may not be as primitive as I believed. Rylan smiled. We're learning, Seraphis whispered, almost to herself. And I must learn too. The elder coordinator floated forward. Your cooperation today has demonstrated the strength of unity, the elder declared. The hybrid plan will stand as the official recommended solution. The council acknowledges both contributions. But the room knew the truth. This was Rylan's moment. Humanity's moment. Turning point. And Seraphis knew it too. The summit station floated in silence above the nebula of Vorin. But inside, tension was spreading like a cold wind. The Galactic Council stood around the holotable, watching the scattered lights that represented all fleets heading toward the meeting point. For a moment it looked peaceful, but not for long. Kale had a feeling in his chest, a strange pressure that made him look through the viewing glass again and again. He sensed something was wrong. His instincts had saved him more than once in his life. This time they felt stronger. General Varin noticed his worry. You're thinking too much, human, he said, trying to sound calm. Kale shook his head. No, something is coming. Something big. Princess Lyra had been quiet since the rumor of unrest reached the council chamber. Her young face looked pale under the glowing lights. This summit was her first major duty as future queen of her world. She was confident, brave, and determined, but even she felt a tightening fear. Kale, she asked softly, what do you sense? Kale didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied the space outside, the swirling purple clouds of the nebula, the distant flicker of stars, the glimmer of approaching ships. It feels like someone is watching us, he finally said. Suddenly, the lights above flickered. A soft hum, a pulse, then darkness. For 3 seconds, the entire summit station lost power. Only emergency lights remained, glowing red like warning beacons. When the systems restarted, every council member looked shaken. That wasn't an accident, Varen growled. Someone tried to scan the entire station with a pulse. Lyra's eyes widened. A weapons scan? No, Kale said. A search scan. They're looking for someone. The room fell silent. Everyone knew who they meant. Lyra. The young princess took a step back in shock. But why me? I haven't done anything. Kale stepped forward instinctively, placing himself between her and the open room. Maybe they want leverage. You're the highest royal present. The doors hissed open. Captain Rilo, one of the station's security officers, entered with emergency reports. His face was tight with worry. We detected 3 unknown ships outside the nebula, he announced. They are not sending identification codes. Council members exchanged nervous glances. Ambassador Tovan spoke first. Unknown ships during a peace summit? This cannot be a coincidence. General Varen's jaw clenched. Are they hostile? Rilo shook his head. We don't know. They're drifting, not moving, almost waiting. Kale felt a chill run down his spine. Waiting for what? Before anyone could discuss further, a warning alarm echoed through the chamber. Intruder detected. Level 7, Engineering Bay. Everyone froze. Princess Lyra's breathing quickened. That's inside the station. General Varen turned to Kale immediately. Human with me. Kale nodded. Lyra, stay with the council. Don't move. She grabbed Kale's wrist, surprising everyone. Be careful. He offered a faint smile. Always. Then Kale and Varen ran through the metallic halls of the station, alarms screaming above them. The red glow of emergency lights cast long shadows across the corridor. Each footstep echoed sharply as they reached Engineering Bay 7. The door was half open. Varen took point, blaster in hand. Kale leaned forward slowly, peeking inside. Smoke drifted through the room. Several consoles were damaged, wires sparking. A technician lay unconscious near the control panel, but alive. Sabotage, Varen muttered. Someone wanted to disable the station. Kale moved deeper into the room, scanning every shadow. Something metallic caught his eye, prints on the floor. Not boots, not claws. Something different. A small drone. Its wings were folded, its lights dim, as if it had just finished its mission. Kale crouched down. Someone sent this inside. Cut power. It scanned for Lyra. And now, a sudden clicking sound behind him. Kale spun around, grabbing Varen by the shoulder and pulling him aside. A second drone swooped from the ceiling, firing a laser bolt straight at them. The explosion shook the room. Sparks flew. Varen rolled behind a pillar while Kale threw himself behind an overturned table. The drone circled, red eye blinking like a hunter searching for prey. Varen aimed his blaster. Kale, cover! The drone shot again, too fast. Kale threw a piece of debris upward, distracting the machine for a split second. Varen fired. Direct hit. The drone shattered, falling to the floor in smoking pieces. Kale stood up, coughing. That wasn't random sabotage. Someone sent assassins. Varen nodded grimly. We must return to the council. If they were looking for Lyra, Kale didn't let him finish. He was already running. Back in the council chamber, Princess Lyra paced nervously. The council argued over whether to continue the summit or evacuate. Suddenly, the room's security shield flickered again. Not again, Lyra whispered. The air crackled. A strange distortion appeared near the center of the room, like someone bending light. A teleportation signature. Everyone get back, Lyra shouted. A tall figure materialized, armored head to toe, mask glowing with symbols. It held a long staff humming with dangerous energy. Target acquired, the masked figure said in a cold, robotic voice. Council members screamed. Lyra stepped back, heart pounding. Who are you? The assassin did not answer. It raised its weapon. The doors blasted open. Kale charged inside, sliding across the floor to tackle Lyra out of the strike path. The staff hit the ground where she had stood, melting the metal instantly. Kale stood between her and the assassin, eyes sharp, breath steady. "Touch her," he said calmly, "and I'll end you." The assassin tilted its head, almost amused. "You? A single human?" Kale did not blink. "Try me." General Varen and station guards flooded the chamber, surrounding the intruder. But the masked figure didn't seem afraid. "You cannot stop the Stormborn," it said. "The princess belongs to us." Kale tightened his fists. "Over my dead body." The assassin lunged, faster than a normal being. Kale dodged, grabbed a fallen guard staff, and blocked the strike. Sparks flashed as both weapons clashed. Council members retreated to the back. Lyra watched with horror and fascination. She had never seen a human move like that, so precise, so fearless. Kale pushed back, forcing the assassin to take a step. Varen shouted, "Kale, hold him!" Without hesitation, Varen fired an energy net. It wrapped around the assassin, pulling him to the ground. The masked figure struggled but couldn't escape. Kale stood over him, chest rising and falling. "Who sent you?" The assassin glared. "The summit will fall, and the stars will burn." Then the mask released a flash, blinding light. When it faded, the assassin was gone, teleported away. Kale turned to Lyra. "This is not a small threat anymore. Someone powerful wants this summit destroyed." The council gathered, shaken and terrified. No one knew what would happen next, but Kale did. "The storm is here," he said quietly, "and we're not ready for it." The summit station felt colder after the attack. Council members whispered in frightened circles. Guards doubled their presence in every corridor. Even the nebula outside looked darker, as if it sensed the danger closing in. But Kale stood calm, not fearless, just ready. He had seen war before. He had seen betrayal. And now he knew something important. Whoever wanted Princess Lyra wasn't going to stop. General Varen paced with a deep frown, frustration showing in every movement. "We cannot continue the summit. The Stormborn will strike again." Ambassador Tovin argued, "If we cancel, we show weakness. The galaxy will fall into fear." Princess Lyra looked torn between both sides. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice remained steady. "We cannot run," she said. "This summit must decide peace or war. If we fail now, millions may suffer." Kale admired her courage. She was young, only 19, but already stronger than many leaders twice her age. Still, he felt the threat growing. Something big was coming. He stepped forward. "Princess is right, but we need to think smart." Lyra turned to him. "What do you suggest, Kale?" Kale lifted the shattered drone from earlier. "These machines are scouts. The assassin was only a messenger. Their real strike hasn't arrived yet." Council members stiffened. "What kind of strike?" Ambassador Tovin whispered. Kale looked at everyone, his voice low. "A full fleet. The vision arrives." As if answering his words, alarms blared across the station. "Unidentified armada approaching. Fleet size, 200+ ships. Stormborn signature." Varen cursed loudly. "They're not hiding now." Lyra stepped closer to Kale. 200 ships? They came for me." "No," Kale said. "They came to end the summit. If peace succeeds, their power weakens." The station shook violently. The first Stormborn wave hit. Lights flickered. Panels sparked. The floor vibrated as the battle outside grew. Through the viewport, glowing blue warships surrounded the nebula, forming a ring of fire. Council members panicked. "We must evacuate. Call reinforcements. Protect the princess." Kale raised his voice sharply, louder than the alarms. "Stop. Listen to me." The room fell silent. Kale pointed outside. "They want us to run. If we scatter, they'll destroy us one by one. But if we stay together, we can make a stand." General Varen narrowed his eyes. "A stand? Against 200 ships." Kale turned to the holographic map. "This nebula has ion storms. Their ships can't navigate inside properly. But our station is shielded. If we lure them into the storms, half their fleet will fry. Tovin blinked. That's brilliant. Lyra stared at Kale with new respect. You understand battle tactics better than most of our generals. Kale shrugged lightly. Humans learn fast. A small smile touched Lyra's lips despite the danger. We do. Kale's plan. Kale took command with surprising authority. General Varen, redirect the station's beacon into the nebula. Make them think we're fleeing inside. Ambassador Tovin, connect to the nearby allied fleets. Tell them to prepare a counter-ambush. Princess, stay with me. Lyra blinked. With you. Kale nodded. You're the symbol of this summit. If the Stormborn wants to destroy hope, then we show them hope isn't afraid. For the first time, Lyra saw something in Kale's eyes. Not just courage, but belief. Belief in her. She straightened. Very well. The station engines roared. The structure drifted deeper into the nebula's glowing storm clouds. Lightning danced across the shields. Stormborn ships followed eagerly, sending volleys of fire. Kale watched the tactical map. Just a bit more. The nebula grew thick, blinding sensors twisting magnetic fields. Stormborn ships entered. Lightning smashed their hulls. Explosions rippled through the armada. Varen shouted, "It's working!" Kale raised a hand. "Not yet. We need them deeper." More ships entered the storm. Kale slammed his hand on the comm panel. "Now, call the allied fleets." 3 allied armadas jumped from hyperspace at once, human vessels, Kelry cruisers, and Othan shield carriers. They surrounded the Stormborn from behind. Stormborn ships realized too late. They were trapped. And then, the battle began. A human stand. As explosions lit the nebula, a final distress alert echoed inside the station. Boarding in progress. Stormborn elite team. Kale exhaled slowly. They're coming for Lyra. Last attempt. Varen yelled, "Guards, defend the chamber." But Kale shook his head. "No, they want chaos. We need clarity. Princess, stand with me in the center." Lyra hesitated only for a heartbeat. Then she stepped beside him. The doors burst open. Stormborn elites charged in, tall, armored, deadly. Kale stood still, calm as a stone in the ocean. One elite pointed at Lyra. "By order of the Stormborn sovereign. She comes with us." Kale smirked lightly. "Didn't you hear? She's busy." The elite rushed forward. Kale moved first. He grabbed the staff. Spun. Struck. Disarmed. A blur of motion, clean, controlled, powerful. Lyra watched, breathless. One guard whispered, "How can a human fight like that?" Kale didn't answer, because he wasn't fighting for himself. He was fighting for an idea, that humans deserved a place among the stars. The last elite collapsed. The chamber went silent. Outside, the Stormborn flagship exploded in a burst of blue and white. The remaining ships retreated, broken, defeated, humiliated. Kale turned to the princess. "It's over." Lyra's eyes softened, full of gratitude. "You saved me. You saved the summit. You saved the galaxy's hope." Kale shook his head. "I didn't do it alone. You stood strong. That mattered more." Lyra stepped closer. "Still, thank you." She extended her hand. Kale took it, and somewhere in that simple gesture, the entire galaxy shifted. The summit concludes. The next day, the Galactic Council gathered again. But this time with pride, not fear. All races agreed to form the Starbound Alliance, a pact of unity and protection. Princess Lyra spoke first. "Let this alliance prove that courage can come from any world, even the one we once underestimated." She turned to Kale. "Let humanity stand with us." Kale felt every eye on him. Alien leaders, warriors, diplomats. But he didn't feel small. Not anymore. He stepped forward. "Humans are ready," he said. "Let's build a better galaxy together." The chamber erupted in applause. The summit had succeeded. The war had been stopped. And the galaxy would never forget the moment a single human, calm, clever, underestimated, stood against an empire of darkness and won.